Everything started on an ordinary evening. We were playing ball in the site's garden. It had begun to get dark, but we were so engrossed in our game that we didn't notice. We wanted to play a little longer before our mothers opened the windows and called out, "Come inside." But that day, something happened that changed all of our lives. Our ball suddenly fell into the basement of the oldest and most neglected apartment building in the site. That building was the most feared place in the entire complex. No one wanted to live there. The apartment lights always flickered. Its windows looked like they hadn't been cleaned in years. Worst of all, strange noises sometimes came from the basement. My friends turned to me. "We need to get the ball," said George. I was a little scared, but I tried not to show it. "Let's go," I said with a shaky voice. We started walking towards the apartment together. When we opened the door, we were hit by the heavy, musty smell inside. The stairwell was dark, with only a weak light flickering. Our footsteps echoed. We gathered our courage to descend to the basement floor. When we reached the basement door, George slowly pushed it open. Inside was pitch black. We turned on our phone lights and looked inside. The walls were covered with old, torn posters. A few broken chairs and rusty tin cans were scattered around. Just then, a gust of wind blew, and the basement door slammed shut with a loud bang. We all jumped. "It was just the wind," I said, but even my voice was trembling. Our ball was in a dark corner. George walked over to pick it up, and just at that moment, an old cupboard on the wall creaked open on its own. One of us screamed. As we backed away, I glanced at the dusty shelves inside the cupboard. There were old newspaper clippings on the shelves. One fell to the floor, and I felt compelled to pick it up. A chill ran down my spine. The newspaper was dated exactly 30 years ago. I kept reading. The article continued. "The children living in this apartment disappeared one night without a trace. All that remained of them were a few toys found in the basement." "Is this real?" I whispered. George suddenly whispered, "Let's get out of here." We had just turned toward the stairs when we heard a rustling sound behind us. We froze in place. The sound came from the darkest corner of the basement. There was an old door there, but I didn't remember seeing it before. I asked myself, was this door always here? But no one could answer. George whispered, "Let's just take a quick look and leave." We slowly approached the door. I reached out and opened it. Inside, it was completely dark, but something moved. A small figure darted into the shadows. My entire body turned ice cold. "There's someone in there," I shouted. At that moment, in the darkness, a small hand pointed at us. Then, suddenly, the lights in the basement flickered. Whispers surrounded us. From the ceiling above, children's laughter echoed, but there was no one there. We bolted for the stairs. We pushed the door open with all our strength and ran into the apartment building. As we climbed the stairs, it felt like someone was running behind us. The apartment hallways stretched endlessly. No matter how much we ran, we couldn't reach the exit. Finally, we reached a door. George opened it, and we stumbled inside, gasping for breath. We looked around, but this wasn't our apartment building. We were inside an old apartment unit. Children's drawings were hung on the walls. There was no one in the room, but toys were scattered on the floor. A teddy bear seemed to be staring right at us. "We need to get out of here now," I said. We moved toward the door, but it shut and locked itself. We heard rustling from inside the room. A drawer creaked open. George said, "Someone is playing with us," but his voice was shaking. A worn-out photograph fell from the drawer. I picked it up and looked at it. There were 3 children in the photo, but their faces were blurry, as if they had been erased. On the back of the photo, it read, "We are still here." Just then, the lights went out completely. Whispers rose from every corner of the room. "You found us. Now it's your turn. Double quotes. We screamed and pounded on the door. Finally, with a loud crash, it swung open, and we all bolted out. We ran down the corridor until we found the real exit. When we burst outside, the sky was as bright as morning. But we had only been inside for a few minutes. We looked at each other. When we returned to the site, our mothers had already been searching for us. But none of us could explain what had happened. When I looked back at the apartment, I saw a pale face staring at us from the basement window. From that day on, we never went near that building again. But at night, the whispers still echoed in the wind.